Hey, Carp, what's going on?
Hey, Dan. How you doing?
Doing good.
It's funny running into you at the Haunted Forest.
You know, it's always kind of fun.
Yeah, we should shoot a new video. We haven't shot a video in a while.
I'd love to do that.
What should we do?
Tales from the Crypt.
No, Nick. We're going to do real estate horror stories.
Hey, it's Dan from Moyer and Sons, and today I'm changing things up just a little bit. Still working with the Halloween editions of Changing Things Up. And at Moyer and Sons today, we're here at Markoff's Haunted Forest in the church with our friend Timmy wearing his mask. And also, I have Charlie here from Carp and Sons. And what we've both been able to do through years is be a part of Markoff's. So we're going to take all the years of experience that we've had and put it into this lovely video. Today, Charlie's going to actually put together a chainsaw and make it run while we talk about horror stories from the real estate world. So, Charlie, let's start with you. How are you guys doing today in the market?
Market's great. It's strong for sellers, very competitive for buyers. But our buyers are winning more than they're losing, so that's what's most important. Everyone's happy and healthy as well.
So before we get any further into it, I can't wait to hear about these stories. I think Charlie over here is going to discuss exactly what he's going to do. How many years were you putting chainsaws together here at the Markoff's Haunted Forest?
11, if I have my math correctly.
You probably don't, but we appreciate it.
Yeah, it might be more like 9 because the first year it was another colleague's job, and then I kind of always took extra water and Gatorade breaks to watch what he was doing, and then, the next year he left and I was thrown into it, and it's sad that I won't be doing it this year. So here's my one honorary one. You're welcome, Paul, Nick, Alex, Matt.
All members of the Haunted Forest, we get to bring it back one more time for Charlie. So, Charlie, get your gloves on. I'm going to start asking you some questions in a second. Now, I myself, I've been at the Haunted Forest for 7 years, worked at the town. My job, was to teach the actors actually how to scare people. So if you ever want to know how to scare somebody, come talk to me. I'm more than excited because, again, I miss it this year, but it was a good year to be away. I actually was able to come out last Friday, and they did a tremendous job. And again, ask about the speakeasy. It's awesome. Now,
Is that
Charlie,
where you get the pizza?
that's where you get the pizza. But shh. In all your years, how long have you been in real estate?
So I actually grew up in the business, so I feel like my whole life. But I finally got licensed in 2009. And so yeah, just over a little bit longer than the Haunted Forest.
That's incredible. Now with that, how many years was your dad, Roger Carp, in business?
I think once you put his official retirement date, I think it ended up being like 44 years.
Wow. So you guys have almost 60 years of experience together. That's phenomenal. And with that, now, in the incredible amount of your almost 11 years now that you've been in the industry, give me a horror story that's happened at closing.
Whew. Where to begin?
Keep putting that saw together. That's the point.
I know. It's one of those things of, it's all about the expectation management to have a smooth transaction. But there's always these, wrenches that are tossed into your smooth gears. Little joke on tools. But one settlement horror story I can think of was there was a seller who was represented by another agent who was actually in foreclosure.
Oh, wow.
And we found out she was in foreclosure about 2 hours before settlement because her bank wouldn't give the title company a payoff. And she demanded at settlement, without advance notice, that she could live in the house for free for 2 weeks, which wasn't going to work for my buyers.
Probably had a mover sitting there ready to go.
Exactly. And so what we ended up doing is we gave her a 2-day rent back. And basically, at the end of the 2-day rent back, she was supposed to be gone from the property at 5 p.m. So we got there at 5:30. And she had locked all the doors on the exterior of the house and left the garage door unlocked. So we were able to gain access to where we discovered she wasn't actually packed at all. She was still in the house.
So she had a full house?
Full house.
Oh, wow.
Clothes, a dog that was kind of using the carpet as a litter box when it wasn't litter box trained. And basically I ended up calling the cops about 7:30. And the cops had to actually have her removed because she wouldn't abide by the agreement. So one thing that you can always learn is that when you have a post-occupancy agreement, it does not mean it's a lease. So a person in that occupancy agreement doesn't have the same rights as a tenant would.
That's awesome to get that. So make sure you guys have that in your documents. Now, obviously, in all the years you've been doing this, you've been to a full open house or two. I almost said full house, and that's a completely different thing. Fuller house, not as good. An open house, and kind of what is an interesting horror story as you walk into a house that you've been a part of?
I've walked into open houses that I'm hosting where it smells of, too many pets in the house, burnt food. I've had colleagues share real horror stories where they were hosting open houses where the houses were robbed.
Ooh, wow.
I always advise clients, to pack up secure medicine, jewelry, expensive art, even little inexpensive tchotchkes. You go on the vacations and you get a little statue or a spoon. It might be very valuable to you, and God forbid that someone ever heard it or took it. So it hasn't happened to one of my sellers, but yeah, jewelry, medicine, expensive art has been stolen or damaged in an open house. So I feel blessed that our sellers have not had that experience.
I remember back in my first round buying a house in the, I think it was like 2010. Tina, what's up, Tina? Good to see you. We went into this house and the people were still living there. They were still there was 2 rooms we couldn't go in because people were asleep. Kids were playing video games. Someone was still cooking in the kitchen. So literally walked to this house and it feels like we were, just in some kind of weird reality show and no one else knew that we were there. Then about halfway through, we realized the train passed within a couple feet of the house. The whole house is just shaking. People are asleep, playing video games. I was like, this is probably not the house for me. So some open houses have had some horrible times. I saw another one where there's a small hole in the top of the house. This is a foreclosure. And gone from a small hole and all the rain come in, taking out the second floor, the third floor. You can see from the top floor all the way into the basement. They're still trying to sell that house. Fortunately, the market's completely different nowadays. Now, in that thing, you've had a settlement that kind of went awry. You've heard about something horrible happened in an open house. Now, with title is something that specific title insurance. What kind of horror stories do you have from the title world?
So obviously I'm not a title agent or attorney, so those folks will definitely have a lot more horror stories because that's their frontline business. I've definitely heard horror stories. One of my first sales meetings back in, that was probably, August of 2009, a colleague who I'm still friends with was telling me that a settlement he had the week before, the buyers called him and said, hey, there's a DC police officer and there's a representative from the court saying that we are foreclosed on our house.
Ooh.
And, basically it was resolved because they had title insurance that they bought at settlement. And, it's one of those things of that's really scary of, you just spent a lot of money on your first house and all of a sudden someone says that you don't own it. Other scary things that can happen when you don't have title insurance is, let's say you bought new construction. Well, 1, are all the contractors and subcontractors paid? And 2, is there any sort of restrictions or covenants on the deed that would prevent the land being used the way it's being used? Which, obviously they're not going to come bulldozer your house, but they're definitely going to be looking for a big check. So, title insurance is a one-time fee when you buy your house that I always recommend to clients. They just get because you could be out a lot of money later.